Welcome to From the Crow's Nest Live here at AOC 2025. I'm your host, Ken Miller from the Association of Old Crows. This segment is brought to you by Ironwave Technologies. I am pleased to be here with Paul Dell, Vice President of Global Growth. I will get to Paul in just a second, but first I want to introduce one of our closing keynote speakers, retired U.S. Air Force Lieutenant General Lance Landrum. General Landrum, thank you for joining us here From the Crow's Nest Live, and thank you for joining us to be our closing keynote speaker today.
Ken, it's always good to be here. Thanks for this invitation to the podcast and for the Association of Old Crows to allow me to speak today.
Yeah, so you were here last year, fantastic remarks. What is your message going to be to close out AOC 2025 this year?
Yeah, the message is sort of a broad message on challenges and opportunities to align ourselves towards superiority in the electromagnetic spectrum. And so that's a broad topic, so I've narrowed it down into essentially communicating the urgency, which is a way to prioritize electromagnetic spectrum superiority, and to understand challenges and opportunities within policy and policy changes, and then understanding challenges and opportunity with budgets, especially defense budgets around the world. So I'm going to concentrate on those areas and hopefully generate some good questions from the audience today.
Absolutely, and communicating urgency is really important because a lot of what's happening on that field, you played a direct role in because you helped lead the 2020 EMS superiority strategy, which is currently implementation. Yeah. About 5 years later, can you give us a little insight about how we're doing on that front?
I think we're getting better at communicating the urgency of our need for superiority in the spectrum. Mm-hmm. And I will give two reasons for that. First of all, there's been positive engagement from associations like the Association of Old Crows and a lot of experts around the world, to include military experts and government experts. And then, regretfully, there is a real threat that is unavoidable and undeniable right in front of us. And there's nothing like a real threat that is a real motivator. And of course, I'm talking about Mr. Putin's illegal war in Ukraine right now, and the threats we are seeing there, the rapid pace of adaptation and the electromagnetic environment and the amount of jamming, the amount of electronic attack that's going on. That is really undeniable, and it is really sending the message that we need to send about the urgency.
Yep. Now, your last assignment was with NATO,
that's right,
with the military committee. We have a new security strategy that was released a couple weeks ago.
That's right.
Can you give us some insight into how Europe is looking at the new security strategy, or just the evolution of our coalition partnership?
Yeah, I think Europe is looking at our security strategy in a very pragmatic way, and I don't think anything that came out in that strategy is particularly surprising based on the comments from this administration. And oh, by the way, there have been several previous administrations dating back all the way to 2008 that have had a fairly consistent message about Europe needs to do more. Europe needs to step up. The United States needs to focus on other areas in the world. And I think with the threat that is facing Europe, that they understand that and have understood that, and they are stepping up in increased defense budgets. They're cohering their efforts with the European Union, between the NATO alliance and the European Union, in a way that understands the threat and then moves out in rising defense budgets that's delivering capability for the alliance. They have a long way to go, but they are certainly taking steps in that direction.
So, looking at where we're at EMSO here in AOC 2025, what would you recommend for our community to be the next steps that we have to take to ensure that we are successful in communicating that urgency, that we are successful in building the coalition and being able to achieve an advantage in the spectrum?
I think the community involved in the electromagnetic spectrum is a mix of government, it's a mix of military, which is sort of government, of course, but it's also a mix of industry, and I think the cooperation and communication between those entities is really important. Industry has amazing creativity, they have amazing innovation and amazingly talented people with incredibly smart capabilities. And the way that the industry messages and markets those that meets the requirements of the government is incredibly important, but it's also dependent on the government to communicate those requirements and partner with industry in a way that is transparent, in a way that is clear to industry and understanding the requirements, so that industry can take their creativity and their capabilities that they have within in order to deliver for the government and bring true tangible capability for our warfighters.
Well, General Landrum, it's always great to talk with you. Really appreciate you taking time. I know we're getting ready to start our closing session and get you ready for that.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you taking time to join me here from the Crow's Nest.
Thanks,
Thank you
Ken.
so
It's
much.
my pleasure. Thank
Appreciate it. At this time, I'd like to bring in Paul Dell, Vice President Global Growth here at Ironwave, our segment sponsor. Paul, thanks for joining me here from the Crow's Nest. Tell us a little bit about Ironwave Technologies.
Thank you, Ken. I really appreciate that opportunity. So Ironwave Technologies is the parent of 5 vertical markets that are all underneath the Ironwave umbrella. Our core technology from decades ago is Dell Electronics. Their foundation was creating converter solutions for high frequency to down frequency, for L-band, SATCOM links around the globe. They also have expanded their portfolio to do multi-channel signal conversion for the DoD, a lot of work for NAV-C and NAV-Air. They have deployment boxes for fighter jets, DDGs, submarines, land vehicles, and now the new push is the autonomous platforms. So we're investing our R&D capabilities and looking above unmanned missions in various facets. Besides just drones, and there's thousands and thousands of different platforms of that, there's unmanned surface vessels, there's unmanned ground vehicles doing a multitude of mission and con ops around the globe. So
what are you showcasing here today? You have a lot of components.
Yeah, we have a lot of parts.
Tell us a little bit about what you have here.
All right, so as I mentioned, the signal converter boxes. So we make enclosure boxes that will capture signals higher than 40 gigahertz and break down that signal to an IF band, where someone who already has an existing platform that can then capture something at 2 gigahertz below. They don't want to change the back end on all those systems. Very costly, expensive, have to requal it all again. But I have a new signal of interest that I need to capture from a sensor or antenna on an airfield or a fuselage. We make a pod that fits onto the aircraft, or we make a closure that can be deployed out in the field at the end of the runway, right at the antenna horn, to convert that signal and run it back to the existing platform. That's one of the things that we do.
What is this over
So
here?
these are actually it's an R&D experiment with somebody who's deploying a little sensor pod that automatically gauges in the ocean to do a measurement underneath the ocean floor to see something floating underneath there that we might want to find out, and it's not a whale type of thing. This was created in unison with another partner of ours. The part that we provide into it is a radio that is created by a company that we own called Centonics out of Columbia, Maryland. They are mainly an R&D facility with a lot of smart engineers. They are funded through DARPA type of initiatives. They do special things for the IC community and the soft community. One of the things that we are introducing this week is a RF over fiber brick. This was created for somebody in the Marine Corps at one time, where when you have a tactical radio at your FOB or your CP, and if you had to transmit from your radio and you don't want somebody to find where you're transmitting from, you could take your antenna and move it 1,000 feet away or 5 kilometers away. So when that antenna radiates, it's not right where you're at.
Yeah. It's really interesting because all these different components, it reinforces the notion that every fight is going to be a joint fight across all domains, because you have to have the components that can be resilient in any environment.
That's the talent too. So just doing theories and modeling is fantastic to figure out the recipe. It's when you've actually created prototypes and provided those prototypes to your sponsor or to somebody directly in uniform in the Department of War, where they actually take that asset and bounce it around in the desert, or they strap it onto a jet or a fixed-wing aircraft. It survives that con op. Then they come to you and say, fantastic, now build me 1,000 of them. And I want each one of those to be duplicated exactly to the T, so I can count on it no matter where I send it around the globe. And that's our mission statement. Our philosophy is we are QRPP, quick reaction, prototype to production capabilities for our sponsors.
Great. Well, Paul, it was great to meet you today.
Yes.
Hope you had a great week here at AOC
Absolutely
2025,
did.
and really
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
you taking time to join me here on From the Crow's Nest Live.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That will conclude this segment of From the Crow's Nest Live. I'd like to thank Ironwave Technologies for powering this segment. We'll be back more this afternoon. Thanks for listening.